Hey everyone, welcome to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Tuesday. It's June 4th. It is 2024. We have a 10-game baseball slate to talk about here on today's podcast. Joined today by my good buddy Keith Eister, Eys819 in the DFS streets. Keith, what's happening, my friend?
Not too much. Cincinnati breaking all the rules. Don't play the road team in Coors on the first game of the series. Yeah, don't listen to that. Cincinnati going nuts in Coors. Great matchup for them. Don't play bad teams in Coors is a rule we sometimes follow. But Cincinnati looking like every bit the chalk they should be.
Yeah, Cincinnati. I mean, we talked about it yesterday. It was Feltner. There was no reason not to play the Reds. They were the top stack on the slate, and yeah, I mean, I had some good teams with Gorman going. Pitching just wasn't like on point for me on Monday. Like, there's going to be days where like you get hitting right and you get pitching wrong, and then there's going to be days where it's flip flop. And the days you just love are the days that like you get everything right. But I mean, those are the days you take stuff down. Eovaldi, really good. Like, he threw 5 really good innings, which we kind of expected him to throw really good if they gave him the pitches. But I mean, outside of that, like, Andrew Abbott in Coors at like 15 with his price is going to be solid, and it depends on like where Waldron kind of ends up. But not a great day for me in the pitching streets. Mackenzie Gore getting absolutely shelled, hurt really bad. So it happens, right? Yeah, I mean, it happens.
I faded Verlander and Gaussman, so I got that right. But yeah, I have way too much McGill. Gore is another one that I had quite a bit of, and he got touched up quite a bit. So it was I felt really good about the pitching slate, but just didn't work out quite the way we thought it would.
I'm with you. So we were on the same fades. Those are the two guys I faded as well. Gaussman, listen, Chief, I tried to tell you, buddy. Don't pick on Baltimore. I mean, just Baltimore's really good. Like, they're just really good. All right, let's have some fun. We got 10 games. What's up, YouTube? A lot of people hanging out in chat. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us here live. If you haven't already, subscribe, turn on notifications so you can come and talk with us and hang out with us live. We got Minnesota at New York, 8 total in this game. The Yankees a 168 favorite. Bailey Ober, Luis Gil. Any interest here in Bailey Ober?
Not against this Yankees team. I've played quite a bit of Ober, actually, because he's been pretty cheap, and he's a guy who can be efficient and go deep into games, but this Yankees team is just tough now that there's not a ton of strikeouts in this lineup. They still have the power bats. Just really tough offense here going into Yankee Stadium as well. I think I'm out on Ober today.
Yeah, like you said, though, I've been playing him quite a bit. I mean, I think he's a really solid pitcher, but this team just doesn't strike out very often. I mean, outside of like Judge and Stanton, but like those are the two guys you're worried about, like home run wise. But I mean, Volpe is at like 20%, Soto's under 17%, Verdugo's at 10%. DJ LeMahieu's back. He's not a huge strikeout guy. Like, this lineup just doesn't offer a huge ceiling like it did for like the last 5 years, where it's like, hey, if they don't take me deep, they're going to strike out. And it's just, the culture has changed. Bringing in Verdugo, bringing in Soto. I mean, the Yankees are just a really, gosh, as a Red Sox fan, it pains me to say this, but like the Yankees are just a really good team. They're just a really good all-around team. They can hit home runs. They don't strike out a ton. I'm off on Bailey Ober today. Like you said, I've played him quite a bit this year. Gil on the other side, one of my favorite pitchers to play right now. He has just figured out what he needs to do to make hitters miss, and it is really like stacking up. He looks fantastic. At least 8 strikeouts in 3 straight games. Minnesota is striking out less, but I think I'm playing the talent here in Luis Gil.
Yeah, I mean, he has been absolutely incredible. Strikeout rate's up over 31%, and the walks have been somewhat under control. He's still walking plenty of guys, but he has 1 7-walk start and a 4-walk start way back at the beginning of the year. He hasn't walked more than 2 guys in any start in his last 4 starts. So he has kind of gotten that under control. He is expensive. 10-8 is kind of a little bit of sticker shock there, but the strikeouts have justified it. The matchup against Minnesota, high strikeouts, like you said, a little bit better recently in the strikeout department, but there's still plenty of Ks in this lineup. I think Luis Gil is worth the price today.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about Shota up in this range. The wind's blowing out in Wrigley, which is a little scary. We got Corbin Burns against Toronto, where Toronto limits the strikeouts a little bit. Flaherty against Texas is a guy that I really like today. We'll get to him. We'll get to George Kirby against Oakland. Like, there are other pitchers today. It's a 10-game slate. But I think, like, out of the three players in the 10K range on DK, he's my favorite. I just really respect what he's been doing. And, like, Johnson in chat says the Yankees limit him. Well, I mean, he's thrown at least 6 innings in 6 straight games. He's thrown at least 90 pitches in every start except for one. I mean, you're not going to get 110 pitches out of this guy. I don't think you're going to get 110 pitches out of any Yankees guy because of the injuries they've been having. But, I mean, I'll take 95 pitches. If he's going to continue to generate the whiffs that he's generating right now, I'll take it. He's just been on another level right now. So, sticker shock, yes, agreed. I think I'm willing to look past it and take some shots on him. Any Minnesota bats that you like here?
Not really. Heel's just been too good. It's a bit of a park upgrade for them, but there's going to be just a ton of swing and miss. I don't think I'm stacking. Like I said, the walks have not been as big of an issue for Heel here recently. I think I'm out on Minnesota.
I think so too. I mean, like, they have a little bit of power in this lineup, but lefty power, like, if you want to target a lefty power bat like Larnach or Kepler and just play like a one-off home run, it is Yankee Stadium. So, I mean, you have that going for you. I don't think I would personally do it on a 10-game slate where I think we have a lot of hitting options. Any interest in the Yankees bats against Ober?
I do, just because they're so good. I think Ober is an above average pitcher also, but I mean, Aaron Judge is the hottest hitter in the game right now, has been absolutely incredible. Soto is awesome as well. They're both over 6K, so stacking them together is a little bit tough. But I think I'm probably power hunting more than I am stacking against Ober. He has pretty solid control. And the Yankees are priced up a bit, but I don't mind a mini stack here. A guy like Gleyber Torres, Alex Verdugo in that mid 4K range can help you out as far as terms of the cost of the stack. But Judge, Stanton, Soto, obviously the top three. It's tough to pay up for the full stack against an above average pitcher.
So something to note about Bailey Ober is he's kind of reverse splitsy as far as power. Like, his strikeout rate's higher against righties, but he's also have a 255 ISO against right-handed hitters and a 354 WOBA. We saw this with him last year, where he generates plenty of swinging misses, but when he gets hit, he gets barreled a lot, like 14%. That's a really high barrel rate for right-handed hitters. And then you start talking about guys like Judge and Stanton, where, like, if they're just making contact, it's just going to be really hard contact against a guy that gets barreled a lot. I don't mind them. I don't think I'd play up for, like, Volpe. I honestly don't even think I'd pay up for Soto today. I really do think, like, it's probably Judge or Stanton, and that's it for me. Like, I don't want to sack them. I think I'm targeting the right-handed power bats, and they're two of the best right-handed power bats in baseball. I know Stanton strikes out a lot, but, I mean, the guy just hits everything hard. When he makes contact, it's hard contact. Baltimore at Toronto, 8.5 total in this game. Baltimore, a 164 favorite. Corbin Burns, Bowden Francis. Any interest here in Corbin Burns?
They're asking 10K for a pitcher that has a 24.7% strikeout rate this season. I don't know if Corbin Burns is a 10K pitcher in this matchup against Toronto. Not that I'm scared of the Toronto offense, but they don't strike out a ton. And Burns has taken a step backwards in terms of the strikeouts. I still think he's a really good pitcher. Just don't know how often I'm paying up for him in this matchup. I'll have to see where the ownership is. If he comes in really low owned, then sure, play him in some tournaments. But I'm not in love with this spot here for Corbin Burns today.
Yeah, I mean, I like right-handed dominant pitchers against Toronto. It's the same thing I said about Rodriguez yesterday. But, I mean, it's tough because he's only topped 100 pitches twice this year, and one of those was right at 100 pitches. The strikeout rate is really dipped. He's a guy that like he lost a little bit of his spin rate when they went to like really checking pitchers. So he was obviously using a little something to help grip the baseball a little bit better. I mean, listen, I still think it's fair. If hitters
Yeah.
can do everything they want to do, I feel like pitchers should be able to grip the baseball better. They've made the baseballs wound like so incredibly tight, and like there's just nothing to And anyway, whole different conversation another day. All I'm gonna say, I don't expect Corbin Burns to get blown up in this spot by any means. He's done a great job limiting power, generating ground balls. I just feel like he's not the guy I want to pay 10K for. Like he still has that like 35 in him. I just don't think he has the 35 in him in this spot. Bowden Francis on the other side here, like we've seen him work out of the bullpen. I really don't know what to expect as far as like pitch count and like how deep he'll even pitch into this game. I mean, everything in my heart tells me this is going to be a bullpen type of game. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I would only expect 2 or 3 innings out of Bowden Francis here. I was looking at his minor league stuff. He's coming off the IL, so he was in AAA rehabbing. He did not throw more than 55 pitches was his last outing in AAA, 3.2 innings. So I think you're looking kind of at a max of like 60 pitches here, probably just 2 or 3 innings. And it's Baltimore anyway. Like I'm not trying to pick on Baltimore.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of looking at it really quick, I will say like I see a note that says 60 pitches or 4 innings.
There you
So
go.
5,700 against Baltimore.
Probably not
That's
enough.
going to be a pass for me. Baltimore bats. Any interest here in the Baltimore bats?
I think we have to consider this team every day at this point. Like they're amongst the top of the league in ISO. Like there's just so much power in this lineup. They're probably going to get matched up a little bit with Francis going anywhere from 2 to 4 innings, and then the bullpen after that. So I don't love stacking against bullpens, but there's enough talent on this Baltimore team. Like just play Gunnar Henderson every day. Dude's incredible. Mountcastle's been hot. Cowser has a fair price. Ryan O'Hearn is a guy who just the price tag should be higher on him. He's still just crushing baseballs. All of his expected stats are up near the top of the league, even though his actual stats aren't great. Definitely expecting some positive regression for O'Hearn. Mullins is cheap. They just brought up Connor Norby is 2,500 at second base. Like a cheap second baseman. I'm always into that if he cracks the lineup again. Yeah, there's just so much talent all the way up and down this Baltimore lineup. I definitely have interest.
Yeah, as you should. Like
Yeah.
Baltimore has gotten into that like range where it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna play them in any kind of good matchup. And I mean, from the sample that we have from this year and last year, like he is kind of dominant against righties, strikeout wise, but like he gets blown up by lefties. So I think Gunnar Henderson's in a fantastic spot again here. Any interest in the Toronto bats?
No, Burns' strikeouts are down a little bit, but he's still near that elite tier. I'm not playing Toronto today.
Yeah, I just don't think this is the spot to play them. Atlanta at Boston. 8.5 total in this game. Atlanta 164 favorite. Max Fried, Cutter Crawford. Any interest here in Max Fried?
I do. Ballpark downgrade going into Fenway Park, but Fried does a great job of keeping the ball on the ground. So that the righty power that plays so well in Boston, he does a decent job of neutralizing that because he just throws so many ground balls. Not an elite strikeout pitcher, but Boston offers some strikeout upside for sure. 9K, I think, is about where he should be priced. I won't have a ton of Fried, but he'll definitely be a part of my pool.
Yeah, I think he's definitely part of my pool. Really like what we've seen from him recently. He's been pitching really solid. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a great spot for him. Cutter Crawford on the other side. Atlanta's been like a team you could pick on recently, which is kind of weird to say. but I don't know if we're getting enough of a discount on a guy that's really been struggling. I've watched some of his recent starts, and like command seems to be a issue with Cutter Crawford right now. Guy that we played a lot to start the season. I think I'm going to pass on Cutter Crawford in this spot just of his recent form.
Yeah, I mean, on a different slate, I would not mind the price tag, even in a tough matchup. Like, I think he's on the verge of taking like another step in towards becoming like a really solid starting pitcher. Like you said, we're playing him quite a bit early this season. He's come back down to earth a little bit. Um, Big slate, tough matchup against Atlanta. I think I'll pass also.
All right. Let's talk bats. Anything on the Atlanta side here?
I don't have a ton of interest in picking on Crawford. I still think you can definitely play Michael Harris. He continues to lead off at 4,400. I know it hasn't gone all that great so far, but there's still plenty of potential there for Michael Harris. Matt Olson is definitely a guy I have a ton of interest in. Sean Murphy, I'm just going to keep playing this guy. He's been brutal since coming off the IL, but he's still 3,600. Like, this is one of the best hitting catchers in baseball. Once he gets his season on track, finally, he's going to just start going crazy for a good stretch. Kelnick is still really cheap as well at the bottom. I don't know if I'm like paying up for a premium Ozuna, Albies, Olson type of stack here, but I certainly don't mind a mini stack. I certainly don't mind trying to find home runs even against Crawford.
Boston side, any interest in the Red Sox here?
Not really. Max Fried, just not a guy I generally pick on. Does not give up a ton of home runs because he does such a good job keeping the ball on the ground. Devers is lefty and priced up now that he's been on a roll here. Connor Wong is still cheap. If I was picking out like a one-off, I don't hate him as a cheap catcher, but not a ton of interest at all.
He just generates like so many ground balls and stuff. I mean, it's just really hard to get excited about playing Boston in this spot. Diaz home run. Hey, listen, if you listen to the morning grind yesterday, your bats are on fire today. The bats we talked about on the podcast yesterday are just absolutely crushing. Anyway, White Sox and Cubs, the battle of the Windy City, 9 total. What do they call this? The series with the Cubs and the White Sox?
Yeah, Windy City Classic or no?
Yeah, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, the Cubs are a 300 favorite in this game. We got Flexen and Shota facing off here. Wind blowing out in Wrigley night before. Obviously, it can change, but we're looking at like 12 to 15 blowing out the left center. No chance I'm touching Chris Flexen with wind blowing out. He's like Houdini, and he'll go out and he'll throw good games every once in a while, but this is just not the guy.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not playing Chris Flexen. The Cubs have been terrible recently, but I'm still not playing Chris Flexen.
What are we doing with Shota today? Like, coming off of his worst start of the season, finally kind of struggled. He just did not pitch well against Milwaukee. They were able to get the ball up in the air against him a lot. It was very interesting spot for him. The White Sox are the worst team in baseball against left-handed pitching. Do we have interest at 10-6?
It's the price for me. I've said all season long, as even when Imanaga has been dominant, that fly ball rate is going to cause him problems eventually. And the Brewers got to him. They hit 2 home runs off of him. If he keeps the fly balls in the park, he's going to continue to dominate. If he's getting hit hard in the air, it's going to be a real problem in a hurry. I think he's going to miss plenty of bats. That's the biggest issue against Milwaukee is he was not missing any bats at all. The White Sox don't really have the power that scares me in this game for them to hit a couple of home runs off of him, but they don't strike out a ton either. I don't know if I see any upside here at a 10-6 price tag is the biggest problem. Like it's still to be determined where Imanaga's strikeouts are going to land. I think he's probably going to be closer to 25% than 30%. So I have a really tough time paying up to 10-6 for him here today. I love the matchup from like a run prevention standpoint. It's a strikeout upside problem, I think, at this price.
Do we think he's going to be low owned?
I
My
think after
initial
the
thought, like, yeah, like my initial thought was we're going to see a guy that just kind of got blown up and like wind blowing out. Like where I could potentially get some interest in him today is just like low ownership. He's not my favorite pitcher up here, like expensive wise, but like low ownership is something that could potentially get me playing him in this spot.
yeah, I think he will be low owned. Maybe the matchup brings him a little bit of ownership, but I don't know, especially just getting blown up. Like a bunch of people knew that he was giving up fly balls and that his home run rate was unsustainably low, home run to fly ball rate, that is. And I don't disagree with that. Like he's going to give up more homers than he did through his first 10 starts or whatever. I don't think that this is the spot that's really all that concerning for him, even with a little wind blowing out. The White Sox just don't have the power bats that can do the damage. So if he's low owned, I have a little interest, but again, it's the upside that I'm most concerned about.
Yeah, I'm worried about the upside, but like if he's low owned, I might take some shots. Like that's where I would get interest. Like because like who are you excited to play from the White Sox? That's the thing.
Nobody.
Like nobody. I mean, that's just where I'm at. Like I really like with Vaughn banged up too. Like he's dealing with like this finger. He missed Sunday's game. Like I don't know. Like the best right-handed hitter in this lineup is probably Danny Mendick. I mean, they're just really bad against lefties. I don't want to play any White Sox bats here.
No, me neither. I mean, it's the thing is like maybe they get a home run or two, but you're throwing darts trying to figure out who that's going to be. Like DeJong just strikes out so much. I don't know that I want to chase a home run from him. He has the power to get it done, but can he make the contact? Jolks is still cheap. I don't hate that, but yeah, I don't know that I'm chasing White Sox home runs here, and I'm definitely not stacking them.
Cubbies, though, I mean, if Houdini could do it again, that's fine. I am just gonna do it. I mean, like Chris Flexen, low strikeout guy, 18%, really struggles with left-handed power bats, and those are that's the hitters I want to play in this lineup, right? Bellinger, Bush against low strikeout pitchers is one of my favorite things because Bush is a high strikeout hitter. So when he's going to make contact, it's going to be hard. Tauchman, Morel, even righty, Suzuki righty, Hap at 3,900. I mean, wind blowing out in Wrigley against Chris Flexen. Load me up here on the Cubbies.
Yeah, it's been a really rough month or so here for this Cubs offense, but I think this has got to be the spot to get back on track. I love the Michael Busch call. I'm totally with you. Like he's struggled with strikeouts this season. He gets a matchup against an extremely low strikeout pitcher here. Ian Happ has really started to heat up. Absolutely love his price tag at 3,900 here. Bellinger, of course, is phenomenal. Taubman's phenomenal. Christopher Morel is going to start hitting. I promise that's going to happen. Dude just continues to smoke the ball right at people. 4,200 for Morel. He is a much more talented hitter than his stat line will show. Patrick Wisdom, if he cracks the lineup, like you talked about it with Bush, Wisdom is another guy I love to play against low strikeouts. I know he's not a lefty, but man, the power from him in a spot that he shouldn't have any trouble making contact. I really hope Wisdom is in this lineup. Swanson is still really cheap. He's been brutal since coming back from an injury. If Pete Crow Armstrong is in the lineup, he is really cheap, 2,900. A guy with power and speed that could really get to flex in here. So I think the Cubs are one of the top stacks of the day.
Yeah, they've been starting Crow Armstrong in center, and they moved Bellinger over to right?
Bellinger's been playing some Spurs quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well,
that's good. I mean, yeah. DH Bush, get Bellinger some playing time. You got to get Crow Armstrong some at bats.
Yeah, for sure.
Detroit at Texas, 8 total pick'em game. Flaherty and Dunning facing off against each other. I mean, I'm going back to the well on my Detroit pitchers here. I know, like, it's not like Scoble like pitched terrible. He just didn't like hit the ceiling we wanted. Jack Flaherty has been phenomenal. I mean, this guy has whatever was going on with him. I know a lot of it had to do with like velocity and stuff, but whatever is going on with him outside of that with St. Louis, he looks great. His strikeout rate is up 12% this season. His walk rate is down 7%. His swinging strike rate is up 4%. giving up less barrels, generating more whiffs off the plate. Hard contact rate is down 13%. Like, Jack Flaherty's healthy, folks. And I mean, I know it's a tough matchup, but I mean, he's thrown at least 6 innings in every game except for one this year. I mean, he is just, he looks really good. Like, this is the guy the Cardinals were like, this is the guy that we, like, yeah.
Yeah, Flaherty, I think you could make an argument that Flaherty has been the best pitcher in baseball so far this season. Like, the strikeouts at 34%, the walks under 4%. He has a 3.46 ERA, but if you look at his estimators, 2.54 xERA, 2.03 xFIP, 2.22 Sierra, like all of the estimators say this guy has been pitching phenomenally. The skills back that up as well. The ground ball rate is up. Jack Flaherty is having the best season of his career, and that's saying something because back around 2019, this guy was like one of the best pitchers in baseball for the Cardinals. He is back. Mm-hmm. He's back in a big way, and he's having the best season of his career. So kudos to him for getting it back on track after a big struggle there. But I think we have to take Flaherty seriously. He, even in a tough matchup against Texas, I'm in on Flaherty.
Yeah, I think we should have been taking him seriously all year. I mean, like, outside of the initial of like, all right, well, maybe he's back a little bit. Like, he's just been phenomenal. So yeah, I mean, even in a tough matchup here against Texas, I'm in. Dane Dunning on the other side of this game, he came back and he's thrown 74 and 92. So I think pitch count wise, you're not terribly concerned about Dane Dunning now that like he's gotten over 90 pitches in a start. What are we expecting? Do we have any interest here against Detroit?
I'm intrigued. I like the matchup, and Dunning's strikeout rate has been up this season. 7,900. Like, I'm still concerned about the pitch count. I know he threw 92 in the last one. I wouldn't be shocked if they pulled him back on that a little bit. If you guarantee me he's going to throw 90 plus pitches, I think I would have some interest here, but I'm not 100% sold that that's going to be the case. Just because, like, in his ramp up, like, it was a really slow ramp up. He went 69, 79, 74 in three starts while he was like I guess that in between there was his IL stint. So I just don't know that I'm completely sold on the pitch count here, is what I will say. If I trusted the leash, I would have interest in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, the leash is definitely a little concerning. Because like even when he was like pitching really good before he got hurt, like I mean, maybe they let him go 6 innings here because Eovaldi only got 5 before they had to go to the bullpen on Monday night, and they didn't have that like buffer game of after the weekend series. So like maybe his leash is like 95 pitches here just because they could use an extra inning out of him. He's 7,900. His strikeout rate is 27%. Yeah,
I think you just said something really important there. The fact that Eovaldi could not go deep today because he was limited, that actually gives that makes me feel a little bit better about Dunning's leash here.
Yeah, I could see him going 6 innings. I think like I don't even know if it's a pitch count thing. Like if he's at 85 pitches in 6 innings, he might get pulled. But I could see him going 6 innings. I feel like they could use it, right? Like they had a weekend series. They played again on Monday. Eovaldi got into the bullpen. Texas bullpen is atrociously bad. So, yeah, I mean, I could see them trying to get Dunning to get 6 innings in this spot. He's cheap. He's 7,900. Yeah, Detroit's better this year, but
K's a little too. Like 12.2% swinging strike rate. Like the K's are not a fluke. I don't know. I'm talking myself into some Dane Dunning here.
Yeah, I mean, I like the price point. I think the price point is solid. He's like top 10 percentile is like his whiff rate. The only thing that concerns me is like some of his expected numbers are a little higher than you kind of hope for. But the biggest thing this year for him is like his slider is generating like 10% more whiffs than it did last year. And his changeup is generating like 20% more whiffs than it did last year. So looking into those pitches and like the movement of those pitches, they've been phenomenal. So it's not a fluke. His slider and changeup are just better. And he's a sinker baller. He doesn't throw fastballs. So like his changeup comes out of the same tunnel as his sinker. So that's really hard to hit. And that's why his whiff rate has been so good with the changeup this year. What's it at? Changeup's at 47% whiff rate, with a
That's
32%
insane
put away. Yeah,
for a
because I
changeup.
mean, like,
Like,
well, you're hoping to get ahead, and then you're hoping to like either generate a ground ball with the sinker. But if you can get to that point where you can throw that sinker out of that same arm slot as a changeup, I mean, that's why he's just dominating hitters with it this year. Like people are hitting 100 against it, and the slider they're hitting 135. So his slider and his changeup are the biggest two things here for him. Looking back at his stuff from last year, so I like Dunning. Detroit Bats. I mean, all the reasons why I like Dunning is like one of the reasons I don't really necessarily love Detroit. I will say, like, when he does struggle, it's like left-handed power. So, like, if you wanted to one off like a Riley Green, I don't hate it. I'm not getting to a lot of Detroit here.
no, I'm not either, but I definitely like the Riley Green call. Use him as a one-off. I think this is a great matchup for him. If you're looking for something cheaper, a guy like Colt Keith, I think, is starting to pick it up a little bit recently. Hit for no power first month or so of the season, but he's coming around a little bit. He's up to 2 home runs here. Both of those have come recently. Akil Baddoo is a lefty that is cheap, but yeah, I wouldn't go beyond a 3-man here.
Any interest in the Texas Bats on the other side?
I think Jack Flaherty is too good at this point. They're priced up. It's really tough to want to pay for the stack here. I think I'm out on Texas.
I'm with you. I'm respecting Flaherty. Like if he gets blown up, sure, okay, it happens. But I just haven't seen it, man. St. Louis at Houston, 8.5 total. Houston's a 154 favorite. Palante against Argotti. Spencer Spaghetti. Palante, like, did not expect anything from him his first start out, right? Like, I stacked the Reds everywhere. I watched the start. He pitched really well. And like one or two of his walks were like really borderline calls too. Like he could have had a couple extra strikeouts in that game. I know because I was tilting. He did this like the broadcast was talking about how like he hadn't started since like 2022 or 2023 or something, and like he pitched really well in that start, and then like he went back to the bullpen. I don't know if I'm gonna play him today. If he was 5K again, maybe, but now we're talking about a guy that's just moving back out of the bullpen, facing a low strikeout Houston team at 7,500. I think it's a price thing. I just don't want to touch it.
Yeah, there's no upside here against Houston, right? Like this, he's not a huge strikeout guy anyway. Like he legitimately is trying to force ground balls. That's like his game, and he's very good at forcing ground balls. But there's not enough swing and miss here against this Houston team. So, especially at 7,500, there's no chance.
Any interest in Spaghetti?
I do. He's really come on. He struggled in his first start of the season, and then just kind of scuffled to find his footing in the big leagues. But man, he's put together quite a significant run here. At least 6 strikeouts in each of his last 3. He's 6,700. I know the St. Louis offense is finally the offense that we thought they were going to be coming into the season. They've been on an absolute roll. But Spencer Arrighetti has been solid. The walks are still an issue, but there's some strikeout upside as well. So if I'm looking for a cheap pitcher, I think Arrighetti's the guy.
The only like caution to the wind that I'm going to throw, because I mean I've noticed this too, is like his strikeout stuff has been phenomenal, but the one thing that I really have noticed is like he's still struggling. Like even if you look at like his last 30-day numbers, like he's still struggling with lefties. I don't know if that's necessarily what you want to be doing against the Cardinals right now, because like I don't know if people recognize, I talked about it and I've been talking about it, but like Gorman is smashing the baseball right now, and Arrighetti's like strikeout rate drops down to 18% in the last 30 days against lefties. And he's had some favorable matchups. Like he's gotten Oakland twice. He's gotten Seattle. I am just a little concerned about the matchup. I think they're going to potentially have 5 lefties. I think they could get 6 in there. They could typically get more than that, but they're dealing with some injuries. It's going to be an ownership thing. Like if he is chalky, I think I want to play the Cardinals bats against him. But if he's not going to be highly owned, I'll definitely take some strikeouts, because I mean, there's some strikeouts here with Goldschmidt. Matt Carpenter is a guy that's like strikeout or hard hit. The catcher Herrera, he's a strikeout guy. Arenado's been striking out a lot. I just do we really think when we get done with this season, and I keep telling myself, when we get done with the season, do we really think that Paul Goldschmidt's going to be striking out 34%? I just,
No.
in my head, I'm like, there's no way a career 20% guy is going to finish the season at 30%, 35%. So I don't know. It's going to be an ownership thing for me if he's popular, because he's 6,700 and we've been picking on the Cardinals all year. It's not working as much anymore. These guys have warmed up. They're hitting over the last month. A lot of these guys have gotten it going. So it'd be an ownership thing for me. I do respect it, but again, 3 of his last 4 starts have been Oakland and Seattle. So that's a little bit of a bump for strikeouts. Has he figured it out, or did he just get some good matchups? We'll see. We'll see. This is a tough matchup for him. Cardinals bats. I like the Cardinals, man. Just said why. Even with him pitching better recently, where he struggles is lefties. This team has gotten it going. I think the Cardinals are in play again. Stacking the Cardinals, I don't know how much I want to do that. I did that against Verlander, and I thought about it. I was like, maybe I should have just targeted the power bats. But I like Burleson and Gorman a lot in this spot. If Donovan's in there, I like him. Carpenter. I like the lefties. And if I'm playing lefties, I'll get some exposure to righties. But I think this is more of a mini stack power searching for these lefties for me.
Yeah, I love a 3-man lefty stack here. They're cheap too. Gorman at 3,700, Donovan 3,600.
Why is he still 3,700? I can't get over this. His numbers for the last month are insanely top 5 numbers. If you look at 30-day splits, Gorman's at the top of the list. He's so good over the last month. I can't get over the fact that he's 3,700 still.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's a guy that I always like to play because even when he was struggling so hard, he's always going to have big time power. He's figured out the strikeouts a little bit here recently, which is why he's starting to have success. He's always going to have some swing and miss in his game, but he's also going to have big time power in his game. So that's exactly what we're looking for. In DFS, we're chasing home runs most of the time. So love Gorman. Play Burleson and Donovan in the stack as well. Don't hate Carpenter. I'm with you. I'll play both sides of this. I think I will have some Arrighetti no matter what, but I will have some Cardinals bats for sure too.
Yeah, maybe he has figured it out, right? His strikeout rate is really good against righties. I'm just concerned that it was matchups. That's all. You got to have some takes. Any interest in the Houston bats here?
I think you need fly ball hitters for sure. Palante is going to try to keep the ball on the ground. So you're trying to find guys that lift the ball in the air. Yordan Alvarez is absolutely the guy. Kyle Tucker left the game with an injury. So if he's out of the lineup, it's going to make the stack a lot less appealing. Altuve and Bregman hit it on the ground a little bit too much for my liking here. So I don't have a ton of interest in the stack. I like Yordan Alvarez a ton, just as a one-off if I'm searching for that. He homered on Monday night, starting to heat up. There was never any doubt that he was going to eventually get back to one of the best hitters in baseball. He has been back to that level for a good while now. So it might just be Alvarez here for me. I'm not in love with the price tag for Altuve. Bregman's hitting it on the ground a little bit too much. So might just be Alvarez if Tucker's out of the lineup for me.
Yeah, Bregman, the magic headband, man. Keep playing it. Listen, it's funny, and I laugh about it. But ever since he started wearing this headband, the dude's been crushing the baseball. It's so irrelevant, and it's just a joke now. But I don't know. Maybe he was getting sweat in his eyes or something. I don't know. So I will say we wish nothing but the best and hope that Kyle Tucker's healthy, because the dude is going to have a huge contract offer at the end of this year, because he is scorching the baseball. He's having a career year. I want him healthy. I want to see him do well. Cincinnati at Colorado, 10.5 total in this one. Frankie Montas, Ty Bloch facing off. Here we go again. Any interest in Frankie Montas?
No, he is really cheap. He's a better pitcher than a 6K price tag. Colorado is not a great offense, but I don't think I can do it. His leash has been outstanding. He's been 107 pitches in his last one. He's been 94, 98 in the two before that. So just the strikeouts have not been there. And now it's Coors Field. Like, I don't know. He's really cheap and he's fully stretched out. That's the only tempting thing here. I don't like anything I'm seeing in Frankie Montas' stats this season. But he's cheap and I don't really fear the Colorado offense, even in Coors.
Listen, I am not afraid to play a pitcher in Coors. I'm going to lead with that. Not afraid whatsoever. Not touching Frankie Montas today. I'm not playing a 15% K guy in Coors, even against a high strikeout team. Like, these guys that are striking out a ton are going to make contact on Montas. Like, the strikeouts have dipped so much in the last year, and like last year he was hurt. I just don't know if he's gotten back to that like 100%. I mean, that's my biggest concern with him. So, yeah, I mean, I'm out. Like, he gives up a lot of fly balls too. Low strikeout fly ball guy. He can give up a bunch of home runs. Just not playing Montas today. I can tell you for certain, though, on the other side of this game, I'm not playing Ty Bloch. I know, hey, listen, shout out to him. He pitched really solid against Cleveland last time out. Good for you, buddy. Not playing 12% Ks against a Reds team that has a ton of ceiling.
Yeah, no chance. No interest whatsoever in Bloch for me.
Right back to the well for me on the Reds, Keith. I mean, I think this is a seller spot for the Reds. This is a guy that really struggles. Candelario has a lot more power from the right side. Steer has a ton of power in this lineup. Stevenson, I know he just hit another home run as we're recording here. Like, he's a guy that has a ton of upside. So, yeah, I mean, I'm loading up on the Reds today. Like, there's just no doubt about it.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. I will say that I don't like the Reds as much against lefties as I do against righties. But there are still some bats that I want to target here. First of all, Elly De La Cruz. It's a lot tougher to pay 6,500 for him against a lefty than it is against a righty. He just has a lot more power when he's facing right-handed pitching than he does when he's facing left-handed pitching. That said, he still has crazy upside just because of his speed. Like, this outfield, it's like, if he can, and he shouldn't have any trouble making contact here against Ty Bloch is the other thing. You're playing him for 2 stolen base upside more than you're playing him for home run upside in this spot. It's really tough to pay 6,500 for that. So I actually prefer Spencer Steer. I think him being priced up is amazing. I love him against lefties. Love the Candelario call as well. Tyler Stevenson is way too cheap. Will probably be one of the higher owned hitters on the entire slate on DraftKings where you have to play a catcher. If Fairchild cracks the lineup, he is 3,500. Espinal might be in there. He has not been great, but another just cheap Coors bat. Like I said, I prefer the Reds against righties, but it's Coors Field. It's Ty Bloch, really low strikeouts. I think they still have a ton of upside here today. It's a little bit like Friedel and Fraley might even get platooned in this spot where they were two of our top targets on Monday night. They may not be quite as much in the conversation here on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall, you mentioned Fairchild. Like, he's one of the top value hitters on the slate. Like, his numbers have been fantastic against lefties this year, but you do worry a little bit about getting pinch hit for late in the game. So, yeah, I mean, overall, I'm interested. I'm very interested. I'm also interested in the Rockies today because, like, Montas is a fly ball guy. The weather is going to be nice again in Coors. You know, it's something that we talked about yesterday. It's going to be 85 degrees, good weather in Coors. Like, Montas with his fly balls. I mean, the problem is just there's just not a lot of ceiling in this lineup overall, but they're cheap. Like, they continue to be cheap. Like, Brian McMahon is one of the top third base plays on the entire slate today. They're cheap. I think this is a good spot to target. Chris Bryant banged up again. I mean, just the dude, like, when he was healthy, he was one of the best hitters in baseball. And Keith will tell you, he watched it with the Cubs, but he just he just hasn't been healthy in like 4 years, 3 years. Like it's really tough seeing. I like the Rockies today. I think they're very much in play against Montas.
Yeah, I like them as well. Love McMahon, Blackman as well. I don't know, like they switch up their lineup a ton. I was willing to play McMahon lefty on Monday night, so really like this spot for him here on Tuesday. Tovar is a guy I certainly don't mind playing. Prefer him against lefties, but against a low strikeout righty, I'd go right back to that. Well, whoever's catching, whether it's Stallings or Diaz, or if they're both in there, I'm on board with that. Doyle has speed upside. Yeah, I mean, just it's a low strikeout pitcher in Coors Field, and we know big runs can be put up in these types of situations. So I'm in on the Rockies again.
San Diego, the gutless Padres against the Angels. nine total or 8.5 total in this game, and it looks like it's a pick'em game. Mazar making it's his debut, right? Pretty sure it's his debut. And then we got Patrick Sandoval. Any interest here in Missouri?
He's 7,700. If he was cheaper, I would have some interest. I didn't know a ton about this guy. Like, he wasn't on any prospect reports. He was a second round pick in 22. The strikeout stuff is okay. 22.8% this season in AAA. He was better in AA. 26.7%. Looks like more of a control guy who I don't really expect him to be a huge strikeout guy in the majors. He's struck out an above average rate of minor leaguers. I just don't know that that's going to translate, at least at this point. He's only made 4 AAA starts. Like I said, drafted in 22. So there's not a lot of experience here. I'm not buying him as a big strikeout pitcher at this point. I just don't know that I want to pay 7,700 for him. If he was 5,700, 6,700 even, I might consider it, because the Angels have been atrocious against righties. They've been awesome against lefties, bad against righties. I just don't want to pay 7,700 for him.
Yeah, I mean, so gosh, my biggest concern is the amount of home runs that he allowed in AAA when he got called up from AA. The flip side of that is El Paso, San Diego's AAA team. They're in the PCL. A lot of home runs in the PCL. Like it's just good ballpark, good hitting. So I mean, is some of that potentially from being in the PCL? It's tough to say, but I mean, just some of the stuff, like his home run to fly ball ratio in AA was like 3%. It was 18% in AAA. He was still generating like decent ground balls. So like, I don't know. The xFIP was really high. He's not a huge prospect. The Angels aren't a good offense, so it'd be really interesting for me to see like what type of ownership we're looking at. He's 7,700. He's not that 4K like call up price, and that's the thing for me. Like 4K against the Angels, sign me up. Yeah. So I don't care who it is, but yeah, I mean the price is the thing that's kind of holding me back here, because I think there's a lot of question marks that. Like he didn't miss bats as much at AAA. And like, if he's not missing as many bats at AAA, is he going to struggle at the major league level? Yes. The answer to that question is yes. Patrick Sandoval, listen, man, I don't want to play Patrick Sandoval, but the Padres are the worst team in baseball. I'm just going to go out and say it. I don't care the talent that this team has. They're the worst team in baseball. When Tyler Anderson throws 6 2/3 against you and you only get 1 run and 5 hits, you're awful. Like the only reason they scored a run is because they hit a home run. Like it's just, man, this team's bad. Good for Machado taking Anderson deep, but gosh, man, they're bad. They're so bad. Like they're the most talented bad team in baseball, and it's so annoying. But I don't know what to do with Sandoval. It's not like it's a huge strikeout spot because they just hit ground balls to people because they're terrible. But I just don't think I can play Sandoval because he just doesn't have a huge ceiling. Like he's just going to give up like 10 ground balls here and get out of innings. He has strikeout upside. I just don't think this is the spot.
That was a proper rant, Stevie. And I'm with you.
Man,
I love the Padres on Monday night. Kirkwood tried to talk Dean and I off of it. Like Dean and I were both like, "Yeah, San Diego's in a great spot."
Gutless, that gutless algorithm.
Yeah, and San Diego's absolutely at the top of the gutless rankings for Kirkwood, no doubt. Shout out to him trying to talk Dean and I off of it on Grinders Live. We did not listen, or at least I didn't. I don't know what Dean ended up doing, but
he played 10% of everybody.
Probably, yeah. That's how Dean rolls. But man, I don't know what to like. You look at their season-long numbers, and they're a top 10 offense in baseball. But it just feels like every time we try to play these guys, they don't do anything. I just still don't think I'm playing Sandoval against them. He is cheap. He just has not been good this season. Is the biggest issue. I don't know. I prefer Arrighetti in this like 6,700, like high 7K range. I don't think I'm playing Sandoval here against San Diego, but that doesn't mean I'm using San Diego bats, even though I do think it's another good spot for him.
Yeah, I mean, this is where like Dane Dunning is like so interesting to me for only like $900 more. And I don't know. I honestly think I would take a shot on Mitch Spence at 6,500 before I'd play Sandoval, knowing that like there's a lot of strikeouts in the Seattle lineup than facing a low strikeout Padres team. I mean, they're awful, man. They're just terrible. With all that said, hey, are we playing any Padres bats today?
I will say Machado is starting to get back to normal. He had off-season surgery. I think it was his shoulder, and he was awful to start. Like the first month of the season, he just did not hit at all. He's starting to heat up now. And I know I wrote him up in my Stacks article today. He had a hit in 13 of his last 15 games. He has one of the longest hitting streaks in baseball right now. And then he just homered again on Monday night. Machado against the lefty at 4,800. Like if he's fully back, he's still too cheap. So Machado is a one-off. I can definitely get on board with that, even if I just cannot get on board with full stacking this team because they just continue to disappoint. The other guy I always love playing against a lefty is Ha-Seong Kim. He's been moved down the order this season, which isn't great, but he's 4K. So if I was looking for a shortstop one-off, I don't mind some Kim.
Machado, Profar has really good bat skills from the right side of the plate, and he should hit leadoff again. Seems awful. The Angels side, I mean, you get a young pitcher. That very unproven young pitcher, we should say. And we get a lot of cheap bats. I could see using the Angels as like a cheap mini stack today. Like overall, like Calhoun's cheap, Adele's cheap, Ohape's cheap. I think like you're just potentially saying, hey, I don't think this guy is going to be anything great. I'm going to use these cheap bats as a mini stack and try to get like one or two good scores out of these guys.
I think you can always stack against any pitcher making his MLB debut. I don't care if he's an elite prospect or not a prospect at all. In Mazur's case, he's just not a prospect. I think he's going to be a control guy, so he's going to be around the strike zone. But maybe that changes in your major league debut when you're pitching in front of more people than you ever have in your entire life. There's certainly other factors that go into a major league debut. So I don't hate the stack. They're really cheap, like you said. The Angels are definitely better against lefties, and that's where I prefer to play them. But a young pitcher making his debut, I'm definitely in. I think if I was picking out one of my just my favorite hitter, I always like targeting the power of Adele, and I like the Willie Calhoun call as well.
Yeah, Calhoun. I mean, again, yeah, worst team in baseball wins 60 to 70 games. Best team in baseball lose 67 games. It's still early. It's going to be okay. I mean, we keep saying that with the Padres. We keep saying it's going to be okay. Yeah, I don't know. San Francisco at Arizona, 9 total in this game. Pick'em game. Kyle Harrison, Blake Walton. Yeah, it's a guy. He's pitching. Any interest here in Harrison?
Arizona's been awesome against lefties. They're very similar to the Angels in that they've crushed lefties and been awful against righties. Harrison's a talented pitcher. We're still waiting on the big strikeout rate that he flashed in the minors to show up. he may end up just settling more as like a league average strikeout pitcher than a 30% guy that we kind of expected from his rise through the minor leagues. Not the best matchup for Kyle Harrison, unfortunately, in this spot. I think I'm out on Harrison. I respect the Diamondbacks too much against lefties.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not doing it. Like, he really struggles with righties. This team is a team that's going to platoon it a lot. I don't want to do it in this spot. And they're talking about the College World Series. Listen, there's only one team to cheer for. What up, Gators? Yeah, come on, Oklahoma. Sup? They got off to a hot start in that game today against Oklahoma. I think it was like 6-1 or something in the first like 4 innings. But yeah, watch out for my Gators. I think I mean, they just keep producing good baseball players in Florida. It's because we can play year round. Other side of this game, Blake Walton. I mean, we're kind of expecting 65 to 75 type pitches here. This is another team that platoons a lot. I don't think I want to play Walton today. He's shown some good stuff so far, but I don't know. Is Miami? I think I want to pass on him. I think I want him to prove it to me one more time here.
Yeah, I don't think I'm playing him either in this spot. Like, he's not a huge prospect. He's ranked 33rd in the Diamondback system coming into this year. He's been higher than that in the past, I want to say. Like, I recognize the name. It just, I don't know. Like, he might be an above average strikeout guy, but he's really struggled with walks all throughout the minors. Double-digit walk rates in AAA in each of the last 2 seasons. It's been a problem in his first 2 major league starts here. So I'm just concerned about the walk rate is the biggest thing. And like you said, San Francisco's probably going to throw a ton of righties at him. I think I just want to see a little bit more what he is. I'm really concerned about this control here.
Yeah, because Keith knows what's up. Keith knows what's up. He knows where this podcast is recorded from. Yeah, I mean, I think I want to see him prove it to me again. I just don't expect him to pitch deep enough. I don't think I could do it. Let's talk bats. Kind of have some interest in the Giants' bats. It's a nice ballpark upgrade for them. Matt Chapman is somebody that I love to play against left-handed pitching. Soler is someone that I love to play against left-handed pitching. And then this guy, Julio Ramos, has been hitting the ball great. So, what's crazy is Chapman is a little pricey, but Soler is 4,200 in this spot. Yeah. Ramos is 3,200. So, kind of how we were talking about the Angels as being a cheaper stack, like a mini stack or a 4-man stack. I think San Francisco is kind of on that same wavelength for me today. We're talking about playing, Cincinnati. We're talking about playing Baltimore and the Cubs. Those teams are kind of pricey. I think you're looking for one of these cheaper teams, and I think that the Giants need to be on your list today.
Yeah, I really like the pricing here. I love the Jorge Soler price. I know he hasn't quite been the same as what he was last season. Struggling a little bit with the Giants. Then he was injured. He's back now. This is way too cheap for Jorge Soler against a lefty. We've been playing Soler against lefties his whole career. He has just look up some splits for Soler. Sometimes he has absolutely smashed lefties in his career. I think the price tag on Chapman is totally fine. Matos, Ramos, I'm with you. Patrick Bailey, a cheap catcher. I'm definitely in on that as well. So yeah, I think this Giants team is very stackable here today.
Arizona on the other side, I think they're stackable. I think this is a potential game where it could fly under the radar a little later. I talked about Gary L on the podcast yesterday. He hit a home run earlier. Right back to the well on him. And I mean, we always love Christian Walker against lefties. Ketel Marte has a lot more power from the right side of the plate than he does from the left side of the plate. His ISO is 320 compared to 130. So I'd love playing Ketel Marte against lefties. It's kind of what you said, right? This is a team that's been really good against lefties, and they've really struggled with righties. I think you definitely want to be playing the Diamondbacks in this spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Harrison's a solid pitcher, but I also think the Diamondbacks are an elite offense against lefties. All of their struggles have come against righties. Christian Walker is one of the top plays on the slate. I'm right there with you on Ketel Marte. Love him against lefties. Suarez is cheap, has big power. is Blaze Alexander. He's still in the bigs, right? If Alexander's in the lineup, I always love playing that guy. He's got a decent power profile. Hasn't really shown up yet, but certainly could get it. If we get a Grichuk start here, definitely don't hate him at 3,100. Moreno is really cheap as well. I love the pricing here on Arizona.
All right, we finished it out. Seattle at Oakland. George Kirby, Mitch Spence, 7.5 total. The Seattle Mariners, a 164 favorite. We were talking about like always playing pitchers against or playing hitters against pitchers making their debut. Would it be much different like going to Oakland and pitching like your major league debut because like there's just nobody in the stands and it's like, hey, I'm just back at AAA, baby. Just I like that legitly ran through my head when we were having that conversation, and then anyway. All right, all joking aside, let's talk about George Kirby. Kind of all over the place recently. The recent form, not the best. Great spot, right? Gets Oakland in Oakland, suppresses strikeouts a little bit with how big the foul grounds are, and getting a couple extra like foul outs instead of strikeouts. But he's 8,800. We were looking to pay up for some bats. I think that you could definitely take some shots on George Kirby today.
Yeah, I mean he's in your cash games for sure. If you're playing those, he's just too cheap for this matchup. I am concerned a little bit about the strikeout upside. Oakland strikes out a ton, but at home, like you said, that foul ground definitely hinders strikeouts a little bit. And Kirby's not a massive strikeout guy anyway. He will have some spike games in there, and maybe this is one if he's on. Like we know he's throwing strikes. We know this Oakland offense isn't all that talented, and that they strike out plenty. So I think Kirby should be at least 9,800 in this spot. He's 1,000 too cheap. I love the matchup for him. I think the safeness factor of him in this spot is incredible. He's just too cheap. Like if you're playing him, you're probably playing him into pretty significant ownership, but I think it's well worth it in this matchup.
You could make the argument though, like in large field tournaments, like top heavy tournaments, to go underweight on him because they do limit this guy's innings. Like it's not even like a pitch count thing. They limit Kirby's innings, and like I think like you just kind of say, in large field tournaments, does Kirby scoring like 22 beat me? Because like I could easily see Kirby like having a 22-point game. Does he beat me with 22? So in large field tournaments, I think you could potentially say, hey, I'll be a little under the weight on Kirby because I think he pushes like 30 to 40% at minimum here, ownership wise. Because like you said, I agree with you. I think he's $1,000 too cheap. Mitch Spence, other side of this game, 6,500 pitcher against Seattle. I don't know if Mitch Spence is good or not yet. I think it's still too early to tell because like we really haven't seen him a lot like in the starting role, but 98 pitches last time out. He's shown strikeout ability. He's shown the ability to like command and generate ground balls. I think I got to play a little Mitch Spence today, Keith.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's this matchup against Seattle has been fantasy gold all season long. They just strike out so much. The Squirrel says that every time he's on a show that he just plays the pitcher against Seattle, and I'm at this point where I'm right there with him, and especially since he's so cheap, and he might be good. Like you said, we just don't really know what Mitch Spence is at this point. We know it's a great ballpark to pitch in. Definitely limits home runs, and 6,500 against a high strikeout offense. I'm very much in on Mitch Spence. I think he'll be a little bit more popular than Arrighetti, but I don't care. Even if he catches a little bit of ownership, I still have interest here.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like I think overall it's just you have to take some shots, right? Like just at the end of the day, you have to take some shots. He's 6,500. He hasn't pitched bad. He threw 98 pitches last time out. If you're going to get a guy throwing 90 pitches against Seattle, like I think you have to play a little bit against him, like a little bit of him. Like I don't know. I think I'd play Mitch Spence if he was like 7,500 in this spot. So like I feel like I'm getting a little bit of value at 6,500. So Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna play some Mitch Spence today. Is it gonna work out? I don't know. Bats, young pitcher. We haven't seen a lot of him yet. Anything standing out to you here?
I mean, on the Seattle side, I think you could take shots on power. Cal Raleigh is always a guy that I like playing. Just big time power from the catcher position. Luke Raley is cheap and has some power. The ballpark makes it tough to want a full stack. I'm not saying I wouldn't full stack Seattle. I just, on a big slate, I don't know that they're going to be somebody I go out of my way to stack in this ballpark. I think they're totally fine. Crawford is still cheap if he continues to lead off. I don't know. Like, this Seattle offense is fine. There's nothing that really intrigues me. I think Raleigh is my favorite play, with Raley being next. Julio is obviously always playable, but I'm not in love with this Seattle offense. It's part of why we want to play some Spence against them. You add in the really tough ballpark. They're not at the top of the list by any means today, but I certainly don't mind a few one-offs here and there, even a mini stack.
Yeah, I mean, so where they become interesting is like if Spence gets some ownership today, and you're just like, hey, I'm going to play the Seattle talent against a young pitcher that's unproven, and just full on stack and say, hey, I'm going to take some shots. I mean, that's where, and like what's weird, and I know we've talked about it a lot already, but like Oakland was the worst bullpen in baseball last year, like historically bad, and they're like a top 5 bullpen this year. It's just, I don't know. Any Oakland bats against Kirby?
No chance.
Yeah, not a spot I would look for leverage today. Let's play the morning grind game, and then we will get out of here. Appreciate everyone hanging out with us live over there on YouTube. If you want to hang out with us live, subscribe to the RotoGrinders Morning Grind YouTube page. Turn on notifications. Usually we go around 10 o'clock Eastern. When Keith is on, we usually go around 10:30 because he's my dude, and he helps me out. Monday nights are super tough for me, so going a little late on Monday nights for Tuesday's podcast usually. And he'll be hosting on Thursday. I'll be out of town for one day, and Keith will be hosting. So under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts. Who do you got today?
I'm going to go Arrighetti here. I'm buying the strikeout stuff. I know St. Louis is been really hot here recently, but I think Arrighetti is a pretty solid pitcher. I love the price tag. I'll definitely have him in my pool. That's my route today.
So I originally wrote down Dane Dunning, and I do like Dane Dunning a lot, but give me Mitch Spence. I mean, the more I talk about like the strikeouts, I mean, yeah, over 8K to score under 15. Who's your bust today?
I like Dunning too, for what it's worth. So I'm right there with you on that. My bust today, I think I'm going to go Kyle Harrison. Love the pitcher. Tough spot against Arizona. They've been one of the better offenses in baseball against lefties.
Like, matchup aside, no reason that Harrison should be more expensive than Bailey Ober. Like, matchup aside, like, no reason. I just wanted to throw that out there. Not that it matters at all. I just wanted to say it. I mean, I think my lean today is Crawford. I think most of these guys get there today, but I'd say like Crawford's recent form is just not good. I watch a ton of Red Sox game. His command is just not as good. Like, he's leaving a lot of balls over the plate. He's not hitting his spots. So I'd say Cutter Crawford today as my bust. Over 4K to hit a home run, not in cores. Who's going yard today?
Yordan Alvarez is heating up. He's got a matchup against a very low strikeout pitcher here today. He has that elite fly ball rate. I think he gets one in the air against Palante.
I like that call. I'm going to go to your boy, Michael Busch, low strikeout pitcher. Michael Busch, a big fly ball power hitter, wind blowing out. Give me Michael Busch to go yard today. Under 4K to get 2 hits. Who do you like today?
Right back to the Cubs. Give me Ian Happ. Starting to heat up a little bit. You just talked about the spot. It's a great spot for the lefties here.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, like that a lot. I like so many hitters today, and they're like all like 41 or 42. Give me Helio Ramos from San Francisco at 3,200 here. Multiple hits in 2 of his last 4 games. and I'm pretty sure he did home run on Monday night. Stack to score 6 or more runs. Who do you got?
My Cubs need to break out of a funk in a big way. And if they can't do it here against Chris Flexen with the wind blowing out, and we might have to call it a season. So give me the Cubs.
Like it's never gonna. Oh, it's gotta work eventually. I'm gonna go Baltimore. I like Baltimore a lot today. Like we talked about a lot of spots. I like San Francisco. I like Arizona. We talked about those teams. I really like the Reds. I think the Reds are the top stack on the slate, but I think Baltimore is going to be under-owned today. Player props. Any player props or pick 'em plays that you like today?
There wasn't any, only the 640 games were up when we jumped on the show. Seeing a little bit more now, so just scrolling through. I was hoping to find a Jack Flaherty strikeout line. Don't see one out there
Not
yet.
up yet.
Yeah. If he opens at 6.5, we're hammering that. Of the things that are up right now, Imanaga at 5.5 is tempting. It's big juice on the over though, so I need to dig into that one a little bit more. George Kirby's sitting at 5.5, -120 on DK where I'm looking right now. That sounds pretty tempting to me against a high strikeout Oakland team. I think that'll be my play for now. Kirby over 5.5 strikeouts.
I am going to go to that same game, and I'm going to live on the edge a little bit here. You can get Mitch Spence over 5.5 strikeouts at Bet365 for +130 right now. I'm going to live on the edge. Again, it's just Seattle's strikeout rate is the highest in baseball, and it really just it hasn't moved. Like they've really stayed at like 30% since the first week of the season, and like it just hasn't gotten really any better. So I'm going to go Mitch Spence over 5.5 Ks at +130. Any lines, money lines against spreads, over-unders, anything like that jumping off the page to you here?
I will say Kirby's only a -155 favorite against Oakland. That felt a little bit low to me. Didn't really see any totals out there. There's nothing jumping off the page like crazy. Not seeing a total in the Wrigley game yet. Nothing really jumping out, but like I don't generally pay like I don't bet sides in baseball very often, but Kirby is a -155 favorite. Feels a little bit too low.
I like the Miami Marlins against the Tampa Bay Rays at plus money. You can get it at plus money on a few books still. Luzardo against Pepiot. In that one, the Rays have just been atrociously bad against left-handed pitching, and Luzardo has been pitching a lot better. Waiting to see what his props come out at, because I think it's a really good spot for Luzardo today. FanDuel had some up, and they took him down, so we'll see. But yeah, I like the Miami Marlins in that like 640 window. Nothing like jumping out to me on this main slate right now. Like I think a lot of the lines are where they should be. If anything, maybe the under in the Seattle Oakland game. But I mean, just
too. Yeah.
I hate betting unders on 7.5. Like it's just like it's so painful to bet unders on 7.5. I don't know.
Especially when you get to like the 7th inning and it's 3-2, and the bullpen just blows it late in the game. Like I'm with you. I hate betting unders also.
I will say though, like if we do believe in Kirby and Spence, like it is 2 top 10 bullpens too. So like maybe the under in that game is the right play. I think I'm going to bet it now. I think I like thinking about the bullpens. I think like I've talked myself into betting under 7.5 in that game. So I'm going to do that real quick. But anyway, any final thoughts before we get out of here, Keith?
No, I think that's it.
All right. I bet that. All right. We're going to get out of here. I hope everyone has a fantastic Tuesday. We're back Wednesday talking baseball. Good luck, everyone. We'll see you then.